You will be able to read a lot about the career and the accomplishments of Josh Stafford in the program, and there certainly are many. Obviously, an impressive young superintendent. He's been very successful in his career. But I want to add some information about Josh that is not part of the program. First and foremost, Josh Stafford is an individual driven each day by one simple goal, but it's very difficult to achieve. He wants every student in his district to have outstanding educational and career opportunities provided by Vienna High School and throughout the community college system. That's his filter. He wants us to provide opportunities for all students as if each one is the kid that we love the most. He also loves to run, bike, serve on mission teams, goes to other countries often. Every once in a while, I'll see my cell phone ring, and he'll be in, somewhere on a bicycle up a mountain. Every time I ask him, though, Josh, how you doing, including this morning, he always says in a humbling tone, better than I deserve. Please help me welcome my friend, Josh Stafford.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, I appreciate Roger's kind words this morning. It certainly is exciting to be here with you guys today. A lot of fun to see a group of K-12 and community college people come together for the sake of trying to serve kids and families in your region. Just the thought, right, that IECC, 4 community colleges, I think that design's really interesting, all under kind of one umbrella there, and then 16 K-12s under that. What a fantastic opportunity for collaboration. Oh, sorry, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't use it. They might fire me if I don't use this. I think I'm a loudmouth, but what a great opportunity for collaboration that kind of exists in this system. So that's really fun to look at and really fun to see. Appreciate Roger's very gracious introduction. I don't think I'm deserving of that. Here's what he's done with that introduction. He's overpromised, and I'll guarantee you I'll underdeliver a little bit. So we'll just reset the bar down low here right up front. I hope everybody received some handouts. If you didn't, wave your hand, and we'll have Philip get those to you maybe, so that way everybody has a set of those. You don't have to worry about digging through those yet. We'll get to them as we move forward. I think it's important, and Roger kind of mentioned this, it's important in education to kind of keep a focus. It seems like we get derailed and distracted with 10,000 things. Whether that's COVID over a few years, right? Kind of most recently, I feel like nationally, it's school violence, threats kind of thing, and my gosh, those things just can be a derailment and distraction to what we're doing, and we have to address them. You can't ignore them. You got to keep moving forward, but you can kind of get marred down in that stuff sometimes, it feels like. And so I think it's just important to mention that and level set. I know the purpose of today's conference is dual credit, early college, and that's our topic. But I want to level set and just kind of take us back to being real humans here for a second. You probably hear it a little bit in my voice. I promise I'm from Illinois, born and raised in Illinois. The further north I get, the more questions I get. No, where are you really from? And I say, Illinois. No, we know you live there now, but before then, where are we? Illinois. Like 7 generations back, my great-grandfather was the founder of the county that I live in. But I do have some friends right across the border in Kentucky. So you guys have been there, and that's where you probably think I'm from. I'm not. But one of my friends in Kentucky, he says it's important to keep the main thing the main thing. So his accent's a little thicker than mine, but I think it's a great reminder. It's real simple, right? We got to keep the main thing the main thing. It's easy to get derailed and distracted. And so how do we do that? What does that look like, whether we're dealing with dual credit or sports or teaching a class or leadership of a building, whatever that is. And one of the things, while I was running recently, I like to run every now and then, my sister, she eats so that she can run. I run so that I can eat. So those are kind of two different approaches, and I like mine better than hers. But when I run, I like to listen to books and different things. One of the books I was listening to, the author of the book, he gets to a chapter and he makes this statement, title of the chapter is, "You're ridiculously in control." And I thought, well, this guy's arrogant. I don't like him, and I don't think I'm going to like this book. And so, but I was already so far in, and I didn't want to stop and figure out something else to listen to while I ran, so I kept listening. And here was the point of you're ridiculously in control, because my brain said, no, you're not. You've got a board of education of 7 people, and they're in control, and they're elected by 4 counties in our situation of people, and the voters are in control, and we've got a whole faculty and staff of people, and they have needs and things, and they're in control because I need to make sure I'm meeting those needs, and there's statutory law and federal law, and there's just all these things, I don't feel like I'm in control. And so I thought the guy was arrogant, and I didn't feel like I was in control. And here was kind of the point of that chapter. You are ridiculously influential is how I would interpret it. I think we forget that, right? Because if I tell you, give me some names of people who are influential. Anybody? Throw me 3 or 4 names out there of influential people in the world today. Oprah. Parents. Who are some 2 or 3 more people influential in the world today? Taylor Swift. Oh my goodness. Who else? One more. It's easy. There's another one. Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Taylor Swift rules the world. Believe it or not, we had a young lady in our community that flew to London to watch a Taylor Swift concert because it was cheaper to buy the concert ticket in London than it was in the United States. I guess she's pretty influential. So there's a lot of influential people. We like to make lists of influential people. The New York Times will, Time Magazine, things like that. And I think that's really interesting, as we think about influence and being ridiculously influential. Now let me give you a little bit of a quiz. I like a quiz. Do you like a quiz? Are you allowed does your assessment team allow you to give pop quizzes anymore? Is that allowed who's the assessment person in here? Are they in here? Somebody pointed them out earlier. We're going to break the rule, I think, maybe. I don't know if they're allowed anymore. Who was the first person to go into outer space? If you feel like with confidence you know the answer, the first person to go into outer space, raise your hand. We've got 1. Let me tell you, it wasn't Neil Armstrong. We've got 4 people who think they know, and it wasn't Neil Armstrong. And your hand's still up. Nope, 3, 4. Oh, maybe 5. Okay, 5. That's fine. Tell me about who's credited with inventing the cellular telephone, which all of us have. Who's that person? What? Cellular telephone? We all have one. You've got one. It's a pretty influential kind of deal. This is he's from Illinois originally, by the way. Pretty amazing. I can go to third world countries and there might not be electricity or indoor plumbing, but there are cell phones, interestingly enough. It's interesting, right? This big influence on the whole face of the planet. Okay, so here's my last question, this pop quiz, real quick. Raise your hand if, without a shadow of a doubt, you can confidently tell me the name of your first grade teacher. Wow. You all are ridiculously influential, right? And here's how I know you're ridiculously influential, because you can tell me the name of your first grade teacher. For Roger, that's been 10 or more years ago. So that's impressive. 10 or more years. And the kids in your school, whether you're teaching at a community college or on the staff or administration of the community college or in a K-12, they know your name. And they'll remember your name. And the cell phone's a big deal to them. I don't know if you know that or not. They don't know the guy that invented that deal, but they know you. You are ridiculously influential. It's a big deal what we get to do. And Roger alluded to this already, and here's a question I like to ask groups of people as well. And you already know the answer to this question, like as soon as you read it. You've got the name. You know the name or the names. You might not even have children of your own, but you can answer this question like that, right? And if we had enough time, you'd pull out your cell phone and you'd start showing us pictures and you'd start telling us about their last football game or how they're doing in their theater production or where they're working at or something like that, right? Wouldn't you? You would. And some of us would be bored to tears, but we would be very kind and we would listen. You've been in those situations because that's a big deal to you. And I think this becomes a little bit of a litmus test for what we get to do as educators. And, right, what we get to do as educators. Some people just have to. Some people get to. And I hope that you get to. So here's the litmus test to put up against that just real quick. And ponder this question for a second, right? Whether you're driving a school bus, serving in a lunch line, teaching physics, being a principal, counselor, whatever you're doing, is it good enough for the kid that you love the most? And an interesting thing I like to observe, and principals don't necessarily enjoy always, if you want to see this in action, about the end of July, the beginning of August, just take a third grade group of moms. Anybody met a third grade group of moms? Anybody a third grade mom or been a third grade mom? Yeah, okay, we got some of them in the room, so I got to talk nice. So here's what third grade moms do at the end of July, beginning of August. If there are 6 third grade teachers, heck, if there's more than one third grade teacher that their third grader could choose from, like on August 10th or 15th or whenever school starts, you know what those third grade moms want? Third grade moms want the best, what? The best third grade teacher, because they want what's best for their kid, and they love that kid, and that's what they're worried about at the end of July and the beginning of August. And that's good. That really is a good thing. And I think we can ask ourselves that question as we talk about early college programming, we talk about dual credit, and we talk about our relationship right amongst adults and how we serve kids and families. It was alluded to earlier by your chancellor, I believe. He kind of alluded to, didn't say it like this, but no random acts of dual credit. So as we kind of get into dual credit, sometimes I think we have some random acts of dual credit. And I shouldn't maybe use such a strong word as no, but maybe the more positive statement here would be, how about intentional acts of dual credit, intentional acts of early college programming, and what does that look like? And I know some of you are like, hey, we're maybe new to this, or we've been doing it for a few years, and we don't really know where to start at. We don't know what the pitfalls are. And sometimes you just got to get started. The toughest thing about going and jogging is getting your tennis shoes on, is what I found. If I can get those suckers on, I'll go. But if I don't, I can talk myself out of it and into a blizzard at the Dairy Queen pretty easily. So get your tennis shoes on, and you might not have perfect running form, and that's okay. But you'll learn, so go. And as you go, you can get more intentional about it. We're going to talk about the intentionality of dual credit here today, early college programming. And as part of that, a big central piece in the intentionality there is you don't know what you don't know. And that sounds like a real elementary statement, but it's true. I just don't know what I don't know. And I'm going to tell you some things that I didn't know over the last 15 years of kind of dabbling off into this, and tell you some of the things I've learned from the experts along the way, and also kind of what I am looking to figure out in the future. And that's all of us. We're all in some part of that process. One of the things that I think is central in intentional acts of early college programming is that we build capacity through partnerships and collaboration. If we don't build capacity through partnerships and collaboration, this ain't gonna happen. It just won't. It won't work. You're not an island on yourself. Somebody mentioned it earlier. We like to work in silos sometimes. Like if you just kind of let me focus here, and I don't have to spin 15 plates or consider if this then that kind of situations, that's great, right? I can just manage this. But that's not reality, and we know that, and we've got to have these partnerships. I think one example of that.
Because high school should be about more.
We are career connected and life ready.
We are striving in our business program.
We are compassionate in our social work classes.
We envision and compose in our art and music program.
We are caring in our health occupations program.
We are creating in our industrial arts program.
We are building in our Illinois Laborers Construction Craft program.
We are fabricating in our auto body program.
We are growing the future in our agriculture program.
We are soaring to new heights in aviation.
We are seeking justice in our public safety and law enforcement program.
We are teaching in our education program.
We are writing and producing in our communications and publications programs.
Because high school should be about more.
So, as we talk about what does collaboration look like, right? What does that look like? You watch that 90-second clip and you go, you're from Vienna, and I'll tell you about Vienna here in just a second. If you don't know about Vienna, you're going to say, after I tell you about Vienna, if you don't already know about Vienna, you're going to say, it's impossible. You can't do all that stuff down in Vienna. You're not big enough. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. The reason I like those blizzards is because I think Dairy Queen might be one of like 7 restaurants in the town. So that's handy, right? You can't do those things. That's impossible. You're right. We can't without collaboration and partnerships from a lot of different people that get involved in that. And so geographically, we're big for a school district in Illinois, and I put Vienna up there. I know you're going to want to say Vienna. It is pronounced Vienna all over the rest of the world, and it is spelled like that. In Illinois, if you're from Illinois, it's Vienna. Whenever you take your family to Disneyland and you get on I-24 and you drive past the sign, you'll wow them all when you say, that's Vienna, and they'll argue with you, but you will have said it correctly. So there's your lesson for the day on pronunciations in Illinois. We also have Cairo and Thebes and on the list goes. It's an interesting state. But the school district covers parts of 4 counties, over 300 square miles, actually over 350 now because we've taken in another grade school district recently. So it's over 350 square miles, 3 community college districts that we work with in Vienna. Because the geography kind of reaches into 3 community college districts. So we literally have kids sitting in classrooms taking English Comp 101, if you will, right? 20 kids in a classroom, 5 could be from Community College District A, and 2 could be from Community College District B, and the remainder from Community College District C. And all of those community colleges transcribe the individual credits for those kids, which is interesting logistically, but we get a great experience there in just learning from 3 community college partners. So that's been really a blessing. About 1,300 students in our K-12. We offer over 125 dual credit college credit hours on the high school master schedule. And we have 5 ISB-approved career college pathway endorsements, adding some each year, 12 career pathway programs, which you're able to see there. And really our whole goal is just numerous partnerships that result in endless opportunities for kids. We don't really care what your zip code is. And I think, again, it's so good to be in this room and to have all of your K-12s represented, your 4 colleges under kind of your collective umbrella. Who in here is a K-12 person today in some capacity? Okay. And I think most of the college folks probably introduced up front. So it's a great mix. It's a super opportunity to collaborate. I just kind of want to point this out as we talk about that mix of 16 K-12s and 4 colleges. This is a real big deal. The students you love the most, we talked about them earlier. You remember who they are. Maybe you haven't forgotten them. Maybe if it was a rough morning, you've tried to forget them. I don't know. Some mornings are rough. But the students that you love the most will have their experiences dictated by how well the adults get along. Right? We kind of like to use professional words like collaboration and partnership, and those are nice words. But really, they just boil down to get along. And you all know about get along. And if we get along, we can get a long way, if you will. So, a vital ingredient here, and what an important thing it is for us to get along, because right, that get along dictates their experience. They'll have our ability to get along will dictate the opportunities they have. And so don't look at yourself. You could probably just go look somewhere else. You got a frame of reference for a business, a school, a church, some other organization, and you can pick out the ones that are functional and how the people within those groups benefit, right? The constituents within those groups benefit because they're functional. And you can pick out the ones, you can tell me the horror stories from the ones that are dysfunctional, and it's just simply because their get-alongs broke. So, don't let your get-along get broke. Keep it going. And there are some great tools out there, and I know some breakout sessions later, and some folks are going to talk about these tools, specifically kind of 1, 2, and 3 here. How do we, the adults, collaborate? And they've been alluded to already. And the post-secondary and career expectations framework through the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. I know in education we love our alphabet soup. So, post-secondary career expectations framework, also known as PACE. The first time PACE was introduced to me, I was like, "Where's the chips?" Thank you. Yeah, somebody over here. Yeah, where's the chips? It's in New York City, is it? So. That's a salsa, so I finally had to figure out PACE in this context is not a salsa. Is that what we're having for lunch? You serving PACE picante? Oh, man. Okay, it's a good salsa, but it's talking about career expectations framework. And so that's pretty vital. Here's what's happened in K-12 world. We kind of go through a different version of a federal education act every 4 to 8 years. You understand why every 4 to 8 years, right? We have political changeover. No matter what your politics are, it just is what it is. And we kind of got in this very assessment-driven, accountability-driven model in K-12 for a pretty long season, and we're still kind of recovering from it. And we didn't care about anything else except for what you got on whatever the flavored test of whatever vendor won the bid for this 10-year cycle, right? So the Prairie State Achievement Test, the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, the IAR, right? And the list goes on. We're just very assessment-driven. And there is compliance, and then there's quality. And yeah, we've got to meet compliance, and at the same time, we can do a quality job. And so, did I say, my friend in Kentucky says it's important to keep the main thing. Well, assessment, I feel like, was one of those derailers at some point. And so I think we're recovering from that. And I think that the PACE framework from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission is a huge help in bringing the main thing back to center. Because, right, you're going to have people who are stuck in that accountability assessment model that we've had to kind of live in for a number of years. It's going to be a little bit maybe hard to change that trajectory. But the good news about the PACE framework is is that one, it's statutorily required to be adopted by every K-12 in the state of Illinois. Two, as you look at the PACE framework, which I've included a link here, and I think Megan's going to share these things out, and somebody will speak to them a little more in depth later, but there are multiple samples of the PACE framework to where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can look at other schools who have done these things. For example, I know Vienna is listed on there. It's also on the Vienna High School website under Student Career Services. But very quickly, you can choose that comprehensive career framework. It's impossible to see there, and I apologize, I should have put it in your printouts. But the PACE framework, it's not complicated, and you've got a ton of in-house expertise to address these things. And it's not just good for K-12s and K-12 students, but it sets up a scenario to where as students go to our community colleges, they've got a little better plan. They've got some framework on how to move forward. When we started working through the PACE framework, we actually had the Illinois Students Assistant Commissions come in and facilitate some workshops for us, and one of our deans then took the reins over and facilitated it there. And here was our big discovery. If you took the magical lottery of classes in Vienna, you got a whole lot of this stuff. And so when the community would come in and be like, oh, kids don't know how to count change back at a register. Anybody ever heard that? Oh, yeah. Oh, we had a kid apply for a job at making blizzards at Dairy Queen, and they didn't have a resume. Everybody ever heard that? Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know kids do resumes. I know we teach counting, change, and math. Like, I mean, these things happen. But here's where we were falling short as a K-12. They just weren't happening for everybody. They happened, right, if you wound up in the business class that created resumes. It happened if you wound up in a supervised ag experience class, right, to where you got some of these components. It happened for some number of kids. It just didn't happen for all kids. And the PACE framework really brought that into focus for us. And here's the next thing that the PACE framework brought into focus for us. It was this, that we didn't need some out-of-town moron in a blue tie and brown shoes to come and tell us anything. I know you're all shocked. We didn't need an out-of-town expert to come tell us anything. We had the capacity in our system. Right? We had business teachers who had these awesome resume templates. We had ag teachers who knew all about exposing kids to career opportunities they'd never been exposed to before. We had the expertise in-house. We just hadn't taken that expertise and put it around the table and, right, utilized it and tapped into it. And frankly, you're going to hear from me a little bit this morning and some of my friends from around the state, and they're awesome. They're rock stars. I've learned so much from them. But when you all get to collaborate later, I think that's on the schedule kind of in your respective disciplines, there's a ton of expertise there. You all have went to school for 4 years and got a bachelor's degree, many of you a master's degree, some a PhD, been educators for how many ever years. There's a ton of collective expertise right here. You pull that together, you can do amazing things. And so really it was, right, just that collaborative group that pulled this thing together. And so now we've built a framework and used that in-house expertise to say every kid should be attending a club fair every year, not just the ones that are in the right class that go to a club fair or a career fair, right? Every kid, their 9th grade year, attends that. Every kid attends, every kid does a mock interview. They do a mock job interview, every single one of them, not just the ones that are in the right class. And so you say, Josh, how do you know that's happening? And we could get into the details and the weeds here quickly, and my time's going to run out really quickly. But we use a program called School Links, right? There's a ton of programs out there that track this stuff. So no matter if you're on the K-12 side or the college side, this is one that our Director of Student Career Services has explored. Believe it or not, it really gets used. There have been kids in there today already. Can you believe it? And it tracks all these things. Here's what I love about it. I like to go and look at the analytics of it real quick because I want to know if this is happening for just like 20% of our kids or 10% of our kids or 70% of our kids. And this has a great little dashboard here that starts giving me information very quickly on which grade level has done what's going on in this thing. And it tells me, if I go back over here to our framework, who has participated and successfully completed a mock job interview, who has successfully completed FAFSA, who has successfully completed all these things. And so no random acts of dual credit. And no random acts of dual credit have to start with intentional career planning. Has to start with intentional career planning. So that's one of our big pieces, I think, as we talk about how do we make sure that the adults can get around the table and get along. Well, we're statutorily required to get around the table and get along there. And I know you can't necessarily dictate get along, but if you have somebody whose get along is broken, you can say, hey, it's just the law. We're just doing what this legislature says. Come on. Do that. Career and college pathway endorsements. Somebody's mentioned those, and I know that there will be additional presentation on that later. That's another tool you can use. Career and college pathway endorsements. Every K-12 in the state needs to have at least one. I can't remember what the statutory date is. They're a great tool in facilitating these discussions. And each one requires at least 6 college credit hours to be associated with it before the State Board of Education approves it. So that's a vital component. It is a bringing together. It is a blurring of the, we're not a 912 or a K8 or a K2, but we are really a P20, a cradle-to-career system. And somebody spoke to that a little bit earlier. And this is a tool that helps facilitate a lot of that discussion. It's been alluded to, but I think it's important for the group to be aware of Dual Credit Quality Act and Model Partnership Agreement. They're very vital documents. Some guy, senator, I don't know, they ran him off, I think finally got sick of him, but I think he was the first one to pass the Dual Credit Quality Act in the state of Illinois. You might know him. He might be in the room. But that was the origin of the Dual Credit Quality Act is Roger Eddy, right here in your own backyard. And it's an excellent tool to facilitate these discussions. And being familiar with that's a huge help. And the Dual Credit Quality Act points to that model partnership agreement, right? Sometimes you get K-12s that say, oh my gosh, we can't buy new books every single year. Do you know how expensive college textbooks are? Anybody got kids in college? Yeah, how expensive are college textbooks? Yeah, it's bad, yeah. So you got K-12s who are scared to death to dual credit because we got to buy new textbooks every year. That's how this works. Well, here's what the Model Partnership Agreement and the Dual Credit Quality Act would support, right, and say is that actually it's only every 4 years. And there's some language there that removes that hurdle in that discussion, right? So we don't get derailed by things that we don't need to get derailed by. We keep the main thing the main thing. So again, 3 really helpful tools, I think, as you guys go through this journey. I want to say as we've used those 3 helpful tools, and this is in your stack of papers. It's the one that's 11 by 17, and it's big. Sorry if I don't make it big. I can't read it. It is this document. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That doesn't look like the document you handed me. That only looks like part of the document you handed me. You're right. It is. Because when we started this 15 years ago, early college and things like that, here was our blinders. We looked at 9 through 12. And we were really good at 9 through 12, we thought. Our graduation rate every year in Vienna is over 90%. Kids and parents are supportive of the school. It's a good place. We've got good teachers. We're spoiled rotten, doing good things, right? All the data was pretty good. And then we kind of dabbled off into early college programming, and we had to remove the blinders a little bit. And so one of the things we discovered was that only 40% of our kids were reading and writing ready at the college level when we handed them a high school diploma. You want that to be the headline in the Vienna Times? I don't want that to be the headline in the Vienna Times. That's not a good headline. But that was the reality. Do you want to know what's more disturbing than that? We started looking at the national data on that. The national data says that only 20, depending on what data set you look at, 20 to 30% of kids are reading and writing ready at the college level when they graduate high school. Yikes. That's scary. That's no fun. That's not a table I want to go sit at. So, right, we said, well, wait a minute. We've got to fix that. We're not living like that. We've got to address that. And so it was one of those blinders that had to be removed for us as K-12, right? It was an uncomfortable conversation, but we had, and we still have, actually several of those people still on our staff, just this really great English faculty, language arts folks that said, we just want to fix it. Can we meet with the college faculty and see where our gaps are at and what's causing this? Because we just want to fix it. Because we want what's best for the kid we love the most. And the college faculty, at the invitation of the high school ELA faculty, said, yeah, we'd love to. And they sat down and had several meetings kind of just hashing this out, having crucial conversations for the sake of the kids that I love the most, and developed, right, what we call just a curriculum course alignment sequence. And what does that look like? And this thing's ebbed and flowed and changed over time. But in Vienna, the class of 2024, remember it was 40%, which was really good compared to national trends. The class of 2024, do you want to know what percentage of that group was ready as of 2024 graduation in reading and writing at the college level? Over 90%. Okay, let's try this again. You go yay when I say over 90%. That's the plan here. You good? You got it? You know your part? Over 90%! Okay, I'll take it. It wasn't super enthusiastic, but yeah, I'm excited about that. That's a big deal. Here's what Vienna kind of gets a little bit of notoriety for, is that we graduate a few kids with their associate's degree when they graduate from high school each year. That's kind of what goes in the media and, right, whatever national news will pick it up, and that's pretty cool that there's, a percentage of our class that'll graduate with their associate's degree the same time they graduate from high school. Yay, rah. Let me tell you about that group of kids that's graduating from high school the same time that they're graduating from college with their associate's degree the same time they're graduating from high school. That group, they're probably going to be successful no matter what I do. Yeah, you know the group. You've got them. And can I be influential over that? And can I be super helpful to them? Yes, I can, and so can you. But they're just probably going to be successful one way or another. Here's the picture I have not figured out how to put in the dang newspaper. I want to take remember we were at 40%, and now we're over 90%, so that's 50% somewhere in there, right? I think. Yeah, maybe. I can't do math. I want to take a picture of that group of kids. And I want to say, here's a group of kids that would have had no chance of going to college. Every statistic would have worked against them in every way possible. They wouldn't have been college completers. They probably wouldn't have been college goers. And guess what? They're college ready. Wow. That's a big deal. That's life changing. And that does not happen apart from get along. It won't happen. It would have never happened in Vienna, right? And it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it never would have happened. And you can read the details there. I'm not going to bore you with the details of that. But it points to, right, that result alone points to the impact and the significance of this work. And I know you're like, what? Am I versus I am? What in the world? Am I college material? How many kids do you think are wandering through your halls saying that at some point, right? Am I college material? You're fifth graders. I don't know. My mom and dad, they didn't go to college. Am I college material? I don't know. I don't think I am. Nobody in my family's gone. I'm a first gen. I had an older sibling go, but they didn't make it past the first semester. If they can't do it, I don't think I can. Am I college material? Here's what dual credit does and early college programming does. It takes an am I, it takes an am I and it turns it into a Thank you. You guys got it over here. Now we're going to try this again. Here's what dual credit and early college programming does. It takes an am I and turns it into a wow. There's some power in that. For the kid that you love the most, that's a big deal. And for the kid that's just you think's obnoxious, that you're never going to name your own child after, if you're a school teacher, you know what I mean. Yeah, school teachers are over here. That's good for them too. Am I college material? And if you can get through early college class, a dual credit class, it changes a trajectory, right? It changes the trajectory for the individual. It changes the trajectory for the institutions. It changes the trajectory for the region. And here's what we have found. Before early college programming in Vienna, we only matriculated about 15 to 17% of kids post-high school graduation to our local community colleges. 15 to 17% to our local community colleges post-high school graduation. Now that we have a comprehensive early college program, we matriculate on a slow year 35% of our kids post-high school graduation to the community colleges. There have been years where we have almost matriculated 60% of a senior class to our local community colleges. Is that good for the institution? Is that good for the kid? Is that good for the region? Yeah, the answer is yes to that quiz. That's wonderful. That's a major impact, the work that we do. And again, it comes back to, this is a rowing team. I don't know if there's a movie. It's a good movie. Sometimes it feels like we're not all rowing in the same direction, right? But if we can set the litmus test, we can figure out the mission and the purpose and row in the same direction. And so that's driven by partnerships. And I'm not going to bore you because I'm probably, how long do I have? Am I out of time, Megan? I'm out of time, aren't I? I got 2 minutes. Is that what you're telling me? You can tell me to hush. I'm not going to be offended at all. Partnerships are a big deal, and this page doesn't reflect them all, but I think we've all got to bust out of our silos and realize we can't do it alone. We're not a big school in Vienna, and I don't know that there's any big school of the 16 here necessarily, right? Nobody's Elgin here with tens of thousands of students and so on and so forth. But these partnerships are vital to our kids. Partnership with the laborers. I call that the triple credit program. They get high school credit, they get credit towards their apprenticeship with the laborers organization, and they get credit at our local community college. We have young people who walk out of that laborers program, and had a young man come up to me at church one Wednesday night, and I said, "How's it going?" And he said, "Oh, good, I got a raise." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. Tell me about your raise." He said, "Well, I'm making $29.50 an hour." And I said, "What?" I said, "How old are you?" He said, 19. Kid had been in my youth group for a while. I knew how old he was. I said, "When did you graduate?" This was August. He said, "In May." "You were there." "Yeah, I know I was there, but my brain's just not processing this, bud. You're 19 dang years old and you're making $29.50 an hour. Like, that's insanity, right? Because he was able to go through a partnership that's a triple credit program, and he's a union laborer working for E.T. Simons and Marion Concrete Contractor, and on the list goes. And right, it's just a list of partnerships. Even partnerships between K-12s, right? And there's multiple partnerships between K-12s here that even go on. We've got K-12s, they're struggling to hire a teacher, period, let alone a teacher who has a license to teach K-12, let alone a teacher who has a master's degree in English. So right there are these ways, and I think you guys are going to talk about this a little bit later, but there are these ways in which we deliver all of Egyptian high school's English instruction. It started off, we delivered their college-level English instruction from Vienna. Egyptian High School's, an hour drive from Vienna. And we do that via Zoom or ITV or whatever nice fancy technology they've got. I'm not probably too good at technology. But here's what happened at the Egyptian High School graduation a couple years ago. The valedictorian and the salutatorian of Egyptian High School, again, 100% free and reduced count at Egyptian. Good people, good place, just not a lot of opportunity. The valedictorian and salutatorian get up and say, we want to thank all of our teachers here at Egyptian. They've been wonderful, and we really liked them all. And we specifically want to thank our Vienna teachers. And they named the Vienna teachers that they've had because without them, we wouldn't have had access to any college credit at all. So it kind of makes you, if you're a Vienna person, want to hide under the seat a little bit because you got to go, you should name your Egyptian teachers, not the Vienna teachers. Don't call them by name because the Egyptian teachers have the bigger investment here. And they were very respectful to their Egyptian teachers. But, it changed the trajectory. It had an impact. And so, again, my 2 minutes have come and gone. There's a ton of resources. I'm going to share a resource link with you as well. If you have questions about these things, again, there are other friends and colleagues here who are going to speak to some of these things, but a ton of great stuff out there to help you guys as you collaborate and work together. And just kind of as a parting word, that the work you do has life-changing, trajectory-changing impact. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and visit with you all today.